SlideSpeaker.AI with Ben Day.
The Azure and DevOps podcast is a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using the latest in .NET, Azure, AI, and DevOps. Listen on to learn how to increase quality, ship quickly, and operate well. The show is sponsored by ClearMeasure, a full-service software architecture and engineering firm. Find them at www.clearmeasure.com. And now your host, Jeffrey Palermo.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jeffrey Palermo, your host for helping you and your teams move fast and deliver quality and to run your software with confidence in Azure, all while using everything that the .NET ecosystem has to offer. Quick announcement, I am hiring a software engineer. So you can go to our website, clearmeasure.com, look at those job postings, see if it's interesting. But let's get into our guest. My guest today is Ben Day, and he is a seasoned software consultant and fractional CTO, and he has over 2 decades of experience. He brings a blend of hands-on coding experience, strategic clarity, and people-focused coaching to help companies from startups to Fortune 500s deliver high-quality software faster and with less friction. And he's also the founder of Benjamin Day Consulting, Inc., and he offers training, coaching, architectural guidance. It's rooted in Agile, Scrum, Azure DevOps, and GitHub best practices. And he's a Microsoft MVP, a certified professional Scrum Master for over 15 years, and a sought-after speaker who favors storytelling over slide decks. And he speaks at just lots of conferences. Ben, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. Good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has. But life marches on, and we've kind of known each other in the industry for a while. But there's a lot of listeners here who maybe haven't been to a VS Live or conference where you do a lot of speaking. And so, kind of before we jump into the topic, you've been programming for a long time. Are there any formulative points in your career where you absolutely fell in love with programming and it just kind of keeps you going?
Oh, I've definitely had moments where I'm burned out. But yeah, I know. I graduated from music school and fell into the industry right when the .com bubble was kind of its like peak bubbleness, and I found that writing code was just as satisfying as writing music was, and that's kind of where that was a gigantic pivot in my life.
Yeah, sounds like it. Although I have run into so many people who have serious backgrounds in music or even deep hobbies in music that also do really, really well in coding. I'm wondering if it's the math overlap.
I've been asked this question a bunch of times, and I think that it's and just to get nerdy, the subclass is coder, and wait a minute, no, the superclass is whatever. I'm messing it up. Just because you're a good musician doesn't mean you're going to be a good coder.
Yep.
But if you're a good coder, I think you have a lot of promise as being a musician. And a lot of it, I think, is if you think about what when you're writing code, you're telling a computer what to do, and it has like a certain amount of empathy to it, where you have to kind of know, it's like, oh, this computer is the dumbest thing in the world, but it's very fast. And it's kind of the reverse for reading music. It's like music is basically a program, and you're interpreting that and turning it into actual sound. So it's like it's close, right? Like it feels like it's a similar mindset, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly why it's so similar.
While we're on the music front, and the topic of today, the episode is your SlideSpeaker.AI program, and ask you about that. But there's an organization, a company called Sunday Sounds that makes an iPad app that you plug into a MIDI controller, and it has just a gajillion different instruments and pads and overlaps. And they added in an AI prompting because all the synthesizer is just a description, all these numbers of how a MIDI signal is going to render in sound. And they literally let you prompt and create your own instrument or your own sound.
No way.
And it generates the synthesizer numbers and math behind the scenes. And they have a whole catalog now of people putting in like, want the keyboard to sound like a babbling brook of water. I mean, just
all right.
You have the sampling of, the grand pianos and the trumpets and all this stuff, but because it's all numbers in the behind the scenes, now it's like infinite custom instruments because it's all numbers.
That's crazy. Man, I got to check that out. That sounds like a neat trick.
The app is called Sunday Sounds, and I think the company name is called Sunday Keys, or maybe I'm getting that backwards.
Okay.
But one of the two.
Well, all right.
You do a ton of just teaching in all kinds of different ways, and you've got. I want to ask you about your YouTube channel, because you have so many videos on there, and we'll include a link to it in the show notes. What got you passionate about kind of sharing in the video SlideShare format?
It's I guess I'm kind of a habitual communicator, and I really like trying to explain things. And I was a Pluralsight author for a really long time. I still have stuff up on Pluralsight, but I just wanted to be able to do more content that I wanted to do, rather than what Pluralsight necessarily wanted me to do. And I just started experimenting with YouTube. It's like, okay, well, I got a bunch of stuff that I tried to sell off of my own, courses.benday.com for a while. And it wasn't worth it. There were just not enough people coming to that thing to justify its expense. And one of my fellow Scrum.org trainers said, hey, you should just post it to YouTube. And I just get way more eyeballs that way. Not making any money, but that's not really why I do that stuff. I do it because I want to write content for people.
Teaching. Well, so you were telling me before the show about a side project that kind of helps with that. It's in the AI space. So SlideSpeaker.AI, well, the website and the listeners.
Yeah.
Tell us what that's all about and what the original idea was.
So there's this company, 11 Labs, so 11labs.io, and they have they started out with a lot of text-to-speech stuff, and I found out that they had a way to do virtual voice clones, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it's only $20? That's crazy. So it was just a slam dunk. And I uploaded a bunch of WAV files, like high-quality recordings, because I had tons, and paid them $20, and they generated this voice clone that I could then, through REST APIs, send the text and get back MP3s. And I did it just for fun. And then I had this idea. It's like, oh, wait a minute. If I could figure out how to drive PowerPoint, then I could potentially take really rich, interesting PowerPoint decks and then bullet point all of the animation moments that I have, and then generate MP4s. And I did just a quick demo, and that was a very quick demo, proof of concept, and it came out pretty great. And then I decided, hey, let's try to turn this into a product, and that's where SlideSpeaker went.
So just to get specific, you start with a PowerPoint and you run it through this program and you come out with a video presentation?
Yeah, at the end. So I actually, on my YouTube channel, for a lot of the not boilerplate content, but content that doesn't involve code demos, a lot of stuff is fully generated out of SlideSpeaker. And thinking about, you used to write for Pluralsight too, right? Did you?
No, there was Pearson. I did some for Pearson.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've done the process of recording video courses and editing video courses, and it takes forever. And that's like Camtasia until your wrists are ready to fall apart. So I wanted to try to speed up that process, and with SlideSpeaker, I can really, really, really speed up that process because I never make a mistake in my recording. And then when I'm generating my voiceover, it sounds like me. It sounds really good. And I can change it and tweak it just like I'm editing a text file. And it makes it a lot better, a lot faster. Actually, one thing that I thought was kind of amusing, when I was doing the proof of concept for SlideSpeaker, I was like, okay, well, what would happen if I translated what I wanted to say into Hindi and then pasted it in, and I sent it to my brother-in-law. I'm married into an Indian family, and my mother-in-law happened to be nearby when he played this, and she said, I didn't realize that Ben spoke Hindi. It was that good that she thought I was literally speaking Hindi. I'm like, well, that's powerful.
Yes. Yeah, because she knows what your voice sounds like, but
Yeah,
speaking the wrong words.
totally.
So let's get geeky for a little bit.
Totally.
How
Yeah,
does
go for
this
it.
even work?
Oh, God. Let me just take a drink. Hang on.
Get ready.
All right. The under the surface of a PowerPoint document, PPTX, it is actually a compressed series of XML documents. So if you renamed, my presentation.pptx to be my presentation.zip, and then you unzipped it, you'd see tons of stuff. So I wrote
Hold on, pause for a sec. 'Cause I think a lot of people don't know that all the new Office documents that end in X. Yeah, that's a great point. Renaming to .zip, and there's a whole bunch of source files inside, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of
Oh, yeah.
that. I think that's just a great point to. All right. And then
And then you open that up and you're like, oh, I want to die. That's so complicated. And what most normal humans do is they look at that and go, that's too complicated. The end. And I decided that I would then figure out how I could parse that. And, getting the text out is easy. Computing the animations is just impossible. And then figure out how to do, like, what do they call them? Template types, like slide types. There's like a slide master that gives you a bunch of different ways that things could look so you can reuse stuff. Now the animations can come from there or on your slides. Anyway, I figured out how to do a lot of that stuff. And then going up into Azure, thinking of like the process of creating a project with SlideSpeaker, you take your PowerPoint slides, upload it to SlideSpeaker. That goes off into an Azure VM that takes a bunch of screenshots of every single moment that happens in your presentation. And like for you and I, like that do tons of presentations, we're doing animated stuff. Like if we're just like block of text, it's really boring. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take screenshots at each moment in the presentation, and then I give you a UI that allows you to type what you want the voiceover to say on each one of those things. And then I use FFmpeg under the surface to generate an MP4 file for each slide. And then I roll all those up to create an MP4 for the entire slide deck. And it's so just to get Azure nerdy, I've played with doing a lot of that stuff in Azure Functions. I played with doing it in Windows services inside of a VM, like just it looked like on-prem, and then eventually settled on Azure Container Jobs, which are really excellent. They're really, really excellent. Confusing to get going with, but for the kind of thing like SlideSpeaker, where it's kind of bursty for traffic, it's really great. You don't have to think about scale, and it's relatively inexpensive. You just pay per job, but it's only pennies per job. That was really, like, I learned a ton writing this thing.
So diving into that for a second, you said it was confusing. What made container jobs just easier to use from container apps or an app service job or a function?
Yeah. So I started off with functions because functions have this really neat thing where you can have a queue trigger and you hook it up so that the function runs every time a message gets written into an Azure queue. And that scalability, reliability, like all those abilities, it's really nice for that. But in order to do video rendering inside of an Azure function, it just gets really expensive. Like, in order for it to be even remotely performant, you'd be into multi-$1,000s per month, and that was a non-starter. So then when you get into, so I wanted something like that is queue based, and there are queue triggers for Azure Container Jobs, and that just made a lot of sense. That's just the direction I went. I'm always curious to see like how other architects would have built that same thing, because I bet there's a bunch of different ways to pull that off.
Azure's come up. I mean, they seem to come up with a new way to package CPU and RAM and storage and
Yeah.
what the container jobs. I think, and I'm not fully up to speed on exactly what the difference is between a container job and a container app. But I understand it's a Docker container running on Azure Kubernetes service under the covers with a managed pod that I don't have to do anything for. But that's it.
Yeah, well, actually, this might be going a little bit over my skis on this, but the container apps are, if I understand it correctly, long-running,
Persistently running, yeah.
Yeah. And the container jobs are one-offs of a certain type.
So it's trigger, just like functions then, there's a trigger that causes one of the images, one of the containers to spin up?
There's a whole bunch of ways you can do it, but there is, it's called event-based scaling. And one of the event triggers is queue messages. What was a little confusing was the documentation was not great. For how those queue messages actually work. And if you're I was mentally thinking queue functions, and what ends up happening is a lot of the plumbing in Azure Functions takes care of connecting it and instancing and all that. It is totally different with Azure Container Jobs. Like the hardest thing that it took a while to figure out this is how it worked. When you run an Azure function that is queue triggered, the message comes into the actual execution. So it runs and you just get the message as an arg to the function. That is not how it works in Azure Container Apps. So what happens is the message comes in and that just tells the Azure Container Framework scale up by 1. And then that job has to then go and do a call up to the Azure queue to pull its message down. And that's a slightly different model. It's like functions, it's more push, the message gets pushed to you. And for container app, this thing, you get brought up to life and then you pull the thing you want and then you process it.
So is it true that if there are 10 messages in the queue, then you could have the option to configure it where it spins up 10 instances of your container and then all of them just run as fast? Okay, nice.
Yeah, theoretically, so I will say that is how it's configured and that's what it looks like it's supposed to be able to do. It takes a little while to warm up, so it's not instantaneous. Like, I feel like Azure functions that are queue triggered spin up a lot faster than this. So there is a bit of a delay when it scales up. And I bet there's also probably some throttling for how much, because you got to figure that behind the scenes, Azure is trying to use leftover capacity, to fill in all the cracks. So, that leftover capacity isn't always available to you, I bet. So sometimes it can take a little longer than other times to spin up instances.
Well, I could see architecturally, if I have an ongoing queue that almost never runs dry and I'm just processing all the time.
Right.
If I'm on containers, I'll probably choose Azure Container Apps with a job there because it's meant to be persistent, always going, and I can have a certain number of instances, a certain number of CPU, and I can tune it to the flow of the queue. But if I have a queue architecture that is very sporadic and certain queues often always run dry, and the jobs are sufficiently complex to where there are different code bases for the different jobs, then it would make sense to have a separate container image for that job. And then sounds like the container jobs mode would be perfectly suited for that.
Yeah, getting into the weeds. I use one container image I have 3 types of jobs: generate text-to-speech audio, generate the video for one slide, and then the final type is to roll up all the slide videos and create the presentation, the project video. And they all happen to use exactly the same code. It's just one image for me, but they get past a message that says, here's the queue that you should read from. Grab one message off of this. So I could do it. I could have optimized it so it was a little tighter as far as what code is in the container, but the ROI was just not going to be there for me.
No,
Yeah.
of course not. I love how Azure is kind of building on top of Kubernetes, where, okay, I don't have to set up the cluster. I don't have to configure, how many hosts or even what the pods look like. It's more my language. Do I want to constantly up website? Do I want to constantly up service? Do I want to sporadically up container job? And like, what am I
exactly
needing? And now under the covers, it's a container. Oh, where's it running? Inside a Kubernetes cluster that's just managed by Azure that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, that's the stuff that's great. Like, I also really, really like Azure App Services. Kind of for the same thing. Like, I just don't have to worry so much about where stuff is. Cosmos is the same way. Like, it's just do your partition keys well, and Cosmos takes care of your scaling, and it's not particularly expensive. It's great.
Well, I want to make sure that the listeners know that and correct me if I'm wrong, they can actually subscribe to and use SlideSpeaker right now. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a free version of it too. They'll let you try it out, 5 slides in one project, so you can go play with it and not pay for it. Ideally, you would pay for it. But it's up there now. And I also have a feature of it called Outlines, where you can say new outline and type in a topic, and then that fires off a call to ChatGPT and generates a presentation from scratch, including what the virtual voice actor should say. So if you wanted to do a video on, teach me everything about Angular, you could fire that off and have a video ready in about 10 minutes.
So we talked a lot about the voice cloning and the AI calls, but talk about this actually generates your slide deck for you. Talk about the beginning part, the planning for it.
Oh, okay. So the one that is up, that's part of SlideSpeaker, it's pretty simple. You type in, I want a presentation on why the sky is blue. And it goes and fires. There's a prompt under the surface that says, give me this in a certain JSON format. So ChatGPT returns a JSON document that my tooling then generates a PowerPoint deck. So if you want, you get slides right away. If you want to turn it into a video, you click create project, and it turns that slide deck into an actual presentation. So I have gone beyond that for my own stuff, so that I'm using I can get a really good first cut at a presentation using a really complicated set of slides, and then I generate video for that. So I've been doing tons of work with this to really streamline my production of video stuff.
I'm thinking, besides doing technology presentations, there's so many just even internal training presentations that sounds like all of that could be just done and automated, and then
absolutely. That is the ideal customer, and those are the customers that have done really well with SlideSpeaker. Is that they have the presentation already that's gone through compliance, it's gone through legal review and whatnot, and they've maybe got their own branding and their own way that they want to do stuff, and the certain way they want to say, do this, and this. This ends up being exactly what they need. So it looks the way they want. And if you're some HR person, you might not feel comfortable doing video editing or recording or wanting your own voice on that. Yeah. And this gives you the ability to have a real pro level voiceover actor do all your voiceover for you.
So with the prompting, do you get to choose the voice, or do you also get to choose the style of the speaking of the voice?
You get to choose the voice too. There's, I think that there's something like 50 different voices. So, we support a bunch of different languages, do stuff. And actually, one of the things that one of my friends was running into, he's from Quebec City, and he was like, I don't really like the Parisian French voices that you have. Like, they end up sounding weird. They don't sound like stuff that I want to do. And 11 Labs is awesome. If anyone from 11 Labs ever wants to reach out and say hi, I'd be interested in talking. But they have a bunch of different models, voice models that are tuned to various accents even. So there's French Canadian, there's a bunch of French Canadian things to do, stuff for Spanish. It's really, it's so cool.
Yeah, this is great. I recently played around with the new Grok 4 iPhone app, and
oh, really?
You can kind of do talk prompting, just like Copilot can. But the number of voices is like got a growing and growing list of number of voices that you can choose.
Oh yeah,
or you can create your own custom voice from one of the tones, but then you can say like, yell at me or whisper or things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, the stuff what you can do with AI is astounding.
Yeah. But it's all still taking the input that you know to be good and just kind of transforming it into a different format. Like none of what you said, hey, give me a HIPAA training program for healthcare. What you're saying is, no. You're the expert in what you need to train. You've got your curriculum. I'll just help you transform it into an MP4 file.
Correct. Although with the outlines thing, you could say, give me a presentation on, HIPAA compliance in healthcare, and it could generate your first cut of your presentation.
So basically like doing some ChatGPT prompting for each topic, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and it goes and it gives you like a PowerPoint document that you can then edit. So it gives you your starting point if you want. You go tune it, tweak it, re-upload it, and it will, you can just sort of, it's a really good way to develop content. Which actually, thinking about my YouTube channel, like I've been doing a lot of stuff on YouTube, what I have been really into lately is I'm trying to write a series of videos on like C# for absolute beginners. I'm using my tooling to generate a lot of the beginnings of this stuff. So if you look at any of those C# videos that I've been posting the last month or so, that's like 75% generated. I mean, I have to tune it. I have to tune it a lot, but the content is like almost all the way there.
Yeah, you got videos. I mean, yeah, the absolute basics for loops, if else, working with strings, values versus reference types. You got so many topics. When you and I remember when .NET came out, and all the conferences, magazine, everybody, the user groups were talking about, how does .NET do this? What did they choose? Oh, garbage collector. Oh, the third
unboxing.
Yeah, all that stuff. But now it's like, well, you and I, it's like, why would we even talk about that anymore?
Yeah, we've been doing this for 25 years.
And then you got the beginners coming in, and then it's like, well, how do they learn the internals?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do is coming from music performance, like I thought I was going to be a jazz pianist in New York, and that didn't pan out. Turns out that doesn't pay very well. So I'm not entirely self-taught on this whole software thing, but I'm a lot of self-taught, and there's a lot of it is just beating your head against the wall, trying to figure stuff out. And I have recognized that, like there was, Scott Allen, rest in peace. He had the greatest C# videos up on Pluralsight, but I mean, he's been gone for a long time. And I was like, I don't think that anyone's doing anything like that. And, Pluralsight's never going to pay me to do it. So I'm just going to do it on my own and hopefully I help somebody out, which is all about what being an MVP is too.
Well, in the meantime, somebody says, hey, can you help me with a more specific problem? And then boom, you got a consulting client.
That is the fingers crossed, second order thing that hopefully happens. First order, try to help people.
Right. Well, so we talked about the AI part, but ultimately you approach this with inside Visual Studio, and at some point you said, file new project and all that. And so now you've been doing .NET for a long time, but which parts of it just kind of fell in place coding it in C#, and what parts of it maybe stretched .NET?
Oh man. It's tough.
Learning the Office format. That was the stretch.
Well, yeah, learning the Office format was absolutely the hardest. I think a lot about, maybe I should just release a paid library for manipulating PowerPoint documents because, I don't know. I went really deep in it. I guess the stuff that was hardest was not so much in the .NET stuff. Because this is going to sound like a kind of a jerk, but I've been doing C# for a long time. I've been doing ASP.NET for a long time. The stuff that was absolutely the hardest was all the new stuff I didn't know, like FFmpeg and MP4 files and that Office format is a beast. That was all really hard. And then getting into the Azure stuff where it was really easy to get it stood up in Azure if I didn't care about what it cost per month.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, I figured out it's like, wait, this is costing me way too much money. I need to figure out some way that I can still provide the service, but then have it not cost a couple $1,000s a month to run. And that was the hardest. I know way more about the Azure world, I think, than I did before. I always knew it, but I never really had it's something different when you are paying for it. You're you really are much more motivated to figure out, there's got to be a better way to do this so that it doesn't cost me $100.
Well, and then scaling to 0 in the middle of the night or in whatever time period your market is really not using it very much.
Yeah. Well, this thing is also I get traffic from around the world. But there are large parts of the day where certain things, not to get into the details of this stuff too hard, but there are certain things in PowerPoint that just work better using COM. So, those things are windows and those things are running, in an interactive session. And so think about how that would work. So a job comes in that needs to run in COM on an interactive session, that needs a VM. And those things cost, $1.50 a month, at least. So that was one of my biggest expenses, that it was running those a handful of VMs all the time. I don't want to do that. So I ended up, I was looking at VM scale sets for a while, and those, I ran into some real blockers with that they don't work the way you'd think they would work. So they didn't work for me. But I ended up writing an Azure function that looks at, have any requests been queued recently that needed a VM? And if it hasn't, it shuts the VMs down. And if it comes in, it spins the VMs back up. It's what was costing me a couple $100s a month in VM stuff is now down to $20 a month.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always a solution to be trigger based and use just what you need. And when you're this product in startup mode, that's direct margins from number of subscribers. And then later on, when 24 hours goes by and you're it never scaled to 0. That's great. And so,
it's a good problem to have at that point. But
right.
Yeah, totally.
Up to it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, before we go, I just want to make sure that we tell the listeners where they can find you. We talked about benday.com. Also, you're on LinkedIn at Benjamin P. Day on LinkedIn.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I'd just say go to benday.com. Everything's linked off of that.
Okay. All
the YouTube videos are linked off the training page. And if you got questions and SlideSpeaker is linked off of that too. Yep. So and if anyone wants to chat more about this stuff, just drop me an email. I'm happy to share what I learned.
Fantastic, man. Ben, this is fun. Thanks for coming on.
This was really great. Yeah, I hope to see you again at a conference soon.
Absolutely. So as we kind of close up, we'll put all the links, everything we talked about in the show notes. And until next time, dear listener, keep shipping.
You've been listening to the Azure and DevOps podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Visit our sponsor, ClearMeasure, at www.clearmeasure.com. And on behalf of your host, Jeffrey Palermo, thanks for listening, and may God bless you.